Hey everyone, I am super pumped to be joined today with Sam Stahl. Sam Stahl is a self-described digital media guy. He has a diverse background in the media space, including being chief revenue officer at a couple of really big publications, including Food 52, Bustle Media Group, or Bustle Digital Group, excuse me. But we're going to talk about all things media, the past media, how media companies have changed over the last 10 years, and kind of what the future looks like for media companies and how media companies make money, et cetera. So, Sam, thanks for agreeing to chat for a bit today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
If you don't mind, give us kind of a quick overview of your background and, just in the media landscape.
Yeah, so I've been working in media and specifically digital media for the most part for almost 20 years. I have really specialized in building and growing advertising sales teams and helping companies maximize the revenue that they're able to bring in. You mentioned a few of the places I've worked. I also ran the sales team at a comedy website called College Humor that was acquired by Barry Diller's IAC. You mentioned Bustle Digital Group. I was the first salesperson there and built out the revenue team there and grew it to very big revenue numbers. Following Bustle, I was the chief revenue officer at Food 52, which is a commerce and content food site that was acquired by an investment firm called the Churning Group at the end of 2019. And since then, I have been consulting and advising digital media businesses on how to grow their revenue, whether that's advertising revenue or otherwise.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. I just think that the media landscape and how these media companies work and how they make money, I think a lot of people may not realize just the business model and how much goes into just trying to sell ad space or just the whole operation, and the amount of dollars that are flowing through the system is pretty staggering. For me, at least, as I've kind of entered the space and had conversations with people like you.
Yeah, it's it's a very fascinating business and industry, and even in the past 10 years, even 5 years, it's just changed so significantly. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the whole game was basically just monetizing eyeballs. The formula was, grow your audience as large as possible, whether through that's organic content, whether that's through paid marketing, and then take that audience to advertisers and sell them to place essentially, banner ads, on your site. 15 years ago, that really also began. Publishers started creating custom content, sponsored content, native content, whatever you want to call it, and pitching that to advertisers. And that was something that advertisers at the time were really excited about. The problem, I think, rapidly became that there was an excess supply of digital media publishers and digital media content, and everyone was essentially selling the same thing, which was a sort of a generic audience and some form of native custom content, meaning that sort of became a commodity to itself. With the insane size and strength of Google, Facebook. There was really sort of a race to the bottom, especially for small to mid-sized publishers, that were getting sort of pushed out of the ad spend, because more and more of that money was getting funneled to fewer and fewer publishers and platforms. So I would say in the past 5 years, it's really been for small to mid-sized publishers, it's really been how do we show off not only our audience, but also, the power of our brand, the connection to our audience and the loyalty of our audience, but then also, figure out other ways to make money other than just selling advertising and custom content. So things like licensing, things like affiliate, things like commerce have really, really, really been essential for these publishers, to continue to grow their revenue in an increasingly competitive market.
Yeah. Would you say when it comes to the revenue share or the revenue streams of one of these media publishers, what do you think is kind of the typical breakdown as far as all of the revenue that comes into one of these media companies, whether it's via display advertising, affiliate, commerce, et cetera? Do you kind of have a gauge on what percentages, are a typical media company might have?
Yeah. I mean, I think, 10 or 15 years ago, you would see that affiliate and advertising would probably be close to 100% of revenue. I think now, you're seeing businesses, need to have at least 25, 30, 40% of their revenue be something other than direct advertising revenue. Food 52, where I was previously, and this is all public information, their revenue was probably 75% commerce sales, so selling things on food52.com, and probably 25% advertising sales. And, in all honesty, that was something that made them very attractive to potential investors and acquirers. So, even publishers that, have relied on, growing their advertising revenue year over year for a long time, they absolutely have to look at other ways to make money. And if they're not able to do that, and you're seeing this now with a lot of publishers, they're either going to go away, or they're going to get rolled up into another bigger publisher. You see all of the consolidation in publishers, whether it's Vice and Refinery 29 and Group 9, Pop Sugar, BuzzFeed and Huffington Post, BuzzFeed and Complex. It's essentially just an arms race right now to get as big as an offering as you can, while at the same time, making sure that the brands that the publisher brands that you do have under this umbrella, do command a loyal audience and also have multiple ways to make money.
Yeah, I noticed on Food 52, for example, it's interesting. It's more, it really blurs the lines between an e-commerce experience and a publishing experience. And I think that as time goes on, the way I think of it is we're going to shop where we spend our time on the internet, and we're also going to spend our time on the internet where we shop. Whereas before, I think both of those were kind of split behaviors on the internet. You would either be, very, going to Amazon and just looking for something to purchase, or you were like just consuming media on Instagram, et cetera. But I think with Food 52 and some these other things that publishers are doing, and even integrated e-commerce on social platforms, it's just all going to kind of become one and the same experience.
That's exactly right. And, I think what you're going to find is that publishers and brands that really do have a deep connection with their audience, like a Food 52, that means that their audience trusts them. And, Food 52 in this specific example, earn the trust of their readers by creating really, really great content. And then they started selling them things. And the selling them things part ended up becoming a bigger business. You look at brands like BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed has really started doing a lot of what they call live shopping events, where they use their own talent and spend an hour on a certain day, selling curated things directly to BuzzFeed's audience. And BuzzFeed's audience loves it and buys these things because they trust BuzzFeed as a brand and BuzzFeed's editorial. I think the tricky part is that not every publisher has that connection with their audience, and if they don't, A, why is anyone going to really truly be there, and B, why are they going to be spending their time and money to buy things that they recommend, if they don't have that deep connection?
Yeah, definitely. I think that trust gap is huge. What about, when it comes to being a chief revenue officer at somewhere like Food 52, how did your day-to-day or your strategy change when you had to go from you're just selling eyeballs to now we're like actually trying to create commerce partnerships? I get
No, that's a fantastic fantastic question. What at the time we really looked at Food 52 was, yes, we had a great audience. Yes, we had, good scale. And yes, we were able to create, really compelling custom content for our advertising partners. But again, lots of food publishers in that case were doing the exact same thing. What Food 52 had in a particularly unique fashion was, we had this shop. We had, the ability to sell things that our audience really loved directly to them from food52.com. So we thought about, as a company as a whole, is how do we really combine all the things that Food 52 does well, and then take those to advertising partners in order to potentially get bigger ad spends from our advertisers. So, were we able to do partnerships that weren't just, advertising and custom content, but were we able to work in, commerce elements to that as well? And what we found is that big advertisers, big marketers were really excited about that, because they've been seeing the same things pop up in their email, 100 times a day from thousands of different publishers saying, we can do X, Y, and Z, but everyone's doing X, Y, and Z. So when they had a potential partner like Food 52 or a BuzzFeed or whoever come to them and say, these are all the things that we do well as a business, and we're going to put them all together to help you as an advertiser and help you support your goals. So it was really thinking about, not just limiting ourselves to what we've been doing, but, what are the other things that we can do and combine, other parts of our business that we can combine to make compelling programs for our advertising partners.
Very cool. What would you say that the future looks like for media companies, just kind of in general? I know that's a really broad question, but when you just think about, one thing you touched on was, these continued roll-ups and consolidation in the media industry. Are there any other trends just in general that you see over the next 5-10 years happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're going to really see publishers who have built, strong brands and who have, strong offerings with multiple sort of platforms. Those are the ones that are going to do well. You have to have a loyal audience. It doesn't have to be, BuzzFeed size. No, not necessarily, but they have to be loyal. And you have to have good technology. You have to, meaning that, you have to offer that audience, interesting things to increase engagement. And, whether that's interactive units, whether that's, different types of compelling content, it can't just be the same type of content that every other publisher is doing. Most importantly is you need to make money in lots of different ways. If you're just relying on advertising, or if you're just relying on affiliate, I would feel very bearish about that. But I think that the publishers that are really thinking about how to leverage their brand into as many revenue streams as possible, and really leverage, all the different things you do against one another, use your commerce elements, to bring to brand advertisers to increase your advertising revenue. I think those are the ones that are gonna survive and flourish.
And it's so interesting because I think before our conversation, you and I don't think I would have associated, when you think of the importance of brand, you think more of like a company selling physical products, or just companies selling products in general, not a media company. But I think when you talk about the success of Food 52, it just makes so much sense. Like I'm sure Food 52 started in a fairly niche category with a niche audience and just built so much trust and started to grow and expand from there. So essentially, having brand and trust be that most important and initial calculation. I think that's true. As media becomes more and more commoditized, brand will be the only thing that people have to rely on.
100%. There's just too many options out there for consumers, meaning website consumers. There's too many options out there for advertisers, and the publishers that really truly have a connection with their audience, I think, will be able to show that to an advertiser and thus make a good connection with them, resulting in revenue. But yeah, brand, I think, is 100% the most important thing.
I think too, I'm not sure how familiar you are with, this is getting more into the TV and OTT space, but I think the launch of Magnolia Network is a good example of someone that's doing it really right, because they have such, Chip and Joanna Gaines have such a strong brand, and they have so many. I actually live in Waco, so I've seen it firsthand that they have so many different ways of monetizing, whether it's through physical products and commerce, or they have a growing real estate business that I'm sure they have plans to expand beyond Texas. They have just so much is built into that Magnolia brand and trust. And that now that they're kind of getting into the media landscape with Magnolia Network, I just think,
they
really dominate.
You're exactly right. They did it exactly right, and they will make hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, out of their empire. But even if you look sort of on a smaller scale, you look at food influencers on YouTube or on TikTok or on Instagram. You're having all these niche sort of food personalities pop up and literally pop up in my feed. And they're such interesting people, and there's they're building these mini brands for themselves. And yes, they're making money with brand partnerships, aka advertisers, but they're also now selling things. So there's a Cajun guy who makes these huge shrimp boils and videos around that. And now he's selling his own seasoning and selling a lot of them. And so these are sort of these little mini brands that are building that connection with viewers. And then guess what? Selling them things because they trust them.
So interesting. And I think on an influencer scale, but even bigger than that, is Mr. Beast, who is obviously building a media empire around him and he's a perfect example of using that media empire to drive revenue in a variety of ways, whether it's Mr. Beast Burger. I also saw that he just launched a candy bar. It's really, really interesting. Things are changing very quickly. And
you're able to take that brand and then license it out. And that's a whole other revenue stream is sort of licensing out the intellectual property that you've created. And, that unlike advertising revenue tends not to fluctuate, quite as much.
So interesting. Well, last question I wanted to ask you, Sam, was just looking ahead for media companies, big or small. What do you think is kind of the best strategy for them to differentiate themselves and survive and thrive in the years to come?
Yeah, I mean, if I was starting a media business right now, I would go niche. I would figure out something very focused, and I would organically and gradually build up, that audience and sort of the loyalty and trust with that audience. And I would explore every potential way to make money with that brand. Whether it's brand partnerships, whether it's licensing, whether it's commerce. But my advice would be start small, focus on a specific need, and provide something really valuable to your audience, and they will trust you, and they will come back, and they will give you their money.
Awesome. Well, I think that's super good advice. And anyways, thank you for taking the time to chat, and we appreciate it. Hopefully, I'm sure we'll have.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks, Sam.